Thanks, mailbox. We just got a letter. Oh, it's a letter from Antony Fritchlee.
Oh, hi, Steve. It's me, Antony Fritchlee here. And it's been a very, very long time since the last time I made a letter for you, Steve. I don't remember the last time I made a letter. I think it was back in probably a couple years ago since the last time I made a letter for you. I can't remember when the last time I made a letter for you, Steve. And today, Steve, I want to show you something very, very special. It's the one I showed you before, but this time it's pretty new because it's the one I used to have, but I don't have the old one anymore. I want to show you something right now. I want to show you that is very, very special. I want to show you something. It's the one you made a letter for me for the first time, for example, Steve, like you showed me in the notebook. Oh yeah, that was back in 2020. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to show you, Steve. Yeah, you ready? It's my homemade, handy, dandy notebook. Ding! Yes, Steve. Look, this is actually my new homemade handy dandy notebook, Steve. This is my homemade handy dandy notebook, Steve. And Steve, the YouTuber, I remember back in 2022, when you make a letter for me, Steve, the YouTuber, I remember that you showed me my handy dandy notebook. Now it looks a lot, my homemade handy dandy notebook looks a lot better, similar like the Blue's Clues part. So as you can see, Steve, look Steve, look how pretty cool it is, Steve. This is the front of the handy dandy notebook. Here's the front of this handy dandy notebook. You can see that I made. And here's the back. I did have to draw it and tear it off, like as you can see right here, and drew it and put it back on. I did draw the strokes and color with the black that was made of Sharpies, and it's colored. The only thing that's been colored is made by crayons. If it's not colored, it wouldn't. If they're not colored, or it won't be. They're not gonna. If they weren't if they weren't colored by crayons, it would have been black and white. It would be just Sharpies if I drew it. So yeah, here's the front, here's the back. The only things colored by crayons is just the green one and this one. Steve, I used to have my old homemade handy dandy notebook, the same notebook I made a letter for you, Steve, but I don't really have that anymore, Steve, so yeah. That's better. I got something in my tooth. Anyways. Here's the handy dandy notebook, and here's the front, and here's the back. It even comes with this special crayon I want to show you. Look, Steve. Now it looks kind of like your crayon, Steve. Oh, the Blue's Clues Steve Birds' crayon, like yours, that is. Well, this kind of crayon was originally the Crayola crayon. Mine's like smaller than your big fat crayon. So yeah, now it looks like looks like an ordinary crayon, except now it looks like a Crayola black crayon. Yes, this crayon is black, like Steve Burns from Blue's Clues uses. So is Joe, or maybe Josh. So yeah, and I just made my homemade label. It looks similar to Steve Burns' handy dandy notebook, as you can see. And this homemade handy dandy notebook I can only open like that. Like you saw me. I was doing Steve Burns, Joe. Yep. And I even drew the Blue's Clues on the end of the page part. I didn't do a perfect Blue's Clues logo, but it doesn't have to be perfect on mine. Here's the Blues Clues logo. I wrote my own Nick Jr. logo. And orange and blue are my favorite color. By the way, orange is my favorite color because of Nickelodeon. See, my favorite color is orange, as you can see, and so is blue, like blue from Blues Clues. I think that my favorite color is orange because of Nickelodeon, and orange and blue like Nick Jr. My favorite color will be pink if I were a girl, so yeah. And when I did a first letter segment, when I made letters for users, I just wrote their names. Here's Jordan, and here's Nate, here's Adam Carter. I was doing your fourth one. This is your fourth user, like I made a letter for you, Steve. Now I'm gonna write your name, Steve. This is a lot better. This kind of notebook that I made is a lot better than my old one. Originally it opens like that. Now it looks like it looks similar like the actual version of the handy dandy notebook, except these are different, like mine. This is probably would have been the Ned Memo notebook, which I was originally made in the 90s, which I found for Office. So I just wrote Jordan. Here's Nate, Adam Carter. Now I'm going to write your name, Steve, on a handy dandy notebook. Now I'm going to write your name, Steve. Like I did in the last video. This is actually my new homemade handy dandy notebook, Steve, in case you were wondering. Look, Steve, I just wrote your name. And when I showed you my homemade handy dandy notebook last time, it was the old one, but this is actually a brand new one. I used to have my homemade handy dandy notebook when I made a letter for you, but not anymore. And I used to have a cat at home, but not anymore. I don't have a cat, or I don't have my homemade handy dandy notebook and my pet cat anymore either. Which I did make a letter for you of the cat and our handy dandy notebook. I don't have it anymore. So yeah. So what do you think of my homemade handy dandy notebook, Steve, the YouTuber? So yeah. Like you did, like you made a letter for me, like. How pretty cool is that notebook? Pretty cool. This looks very awesome. This is kind of like an exciting letter. That's why I had to make this letter segment. See, that's one reason why I made a letter segment, because I'm going to show you something very cool. Maybe someday I might make a letter for you of my Blues Clues VHS tapes. Oh yeah, including Teletubbies, because you're a huge fan of Teletubbies. I might be able to show you my Teletubbies VHS collection. But it'll take a while, but it will take a lot of time, so yeah. Here it is. Oh, it's not easy if the crayon was on, so I had to take it off. That's better. Now that's your name, Steve. So yeah. So what do you think of my homemade handy dandy notebook, including this crayon? You probably love this. So what do you think of my letter segments of my blues? What do you think of my handy dandy notebook, Steve? I think you probably like my new version of my handy dandy notebook. So yeah, I think that's all I gotta say for this Blues Clues letter segment for you, Steve, the YouTuber. That's all I gotta say. Bye, Steve.
Bye. Wow. Oh, Anthony's homemade handy dandy notebook looks so cool. And look, his drawing of a ticket chair looks so cool. Oh yeah, and the crayon I made looks so cool. Oh, 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 oh. The stripes the stripes are kind of a bit many than mine, but yeah, Anthony's homemade handy notebook is so cool.